Well, we want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. Today, we are having a special episode of the podcast, and we have a bunch of people. If you're watching on video, you will see a lot of people. They all waved except for Garrett looked down, and then he waved. So there we go. That'll be fine.
The reflection from the table.
This is what we had to deal with all week long. Wave, Garrett.
The reflection.
Wave at the table.
Maybe he was used to all week long. Like, Garrett, you look down. Now we have everyone's face we want in the picture. So, like, we'll move on. No.
There we go.
So,
Saw my reflection.
yeah. Anyways, this is half the group, or just about half?
Just about half because we had 13.
You had 13. Yeah. Okay, so we have 6 of the 13 that just returned from Honduras, and you guys had an opportunity to be down there for 8 days, correct? Sunday to Sunday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So obviously there was travel in it, but you guys took off on Easter Sunday, and bright and early, you met at the airport at 3:45?
4:45? Is there like a
actually,
chicken?
no.
I'm sorry. I am fighting everything in me. Just, this is where you look at me and say, move on.
Move on.
Yeah. Garrett, you were literally counting the number of days, and I was going to say something about that's what a homeschool education gets you, but
Ouch.
so
Ouch.
I'm going to get crushed over that. Steve told me to
Homeschoolers,
move
sorry.
on too, but like
Sorry,
you were like counting to
homeschoolers.
see if you had 8 days. It was
My
Sunday to
kids go to
Sunday.
cyber school,
They were
so-
8 days. Yeah. So no, it's
Not
yeah,
much better.
not much better.
Spanish.
So
Oh, he is. Never mind. He's cyber schooled, not homeschooled.
okay,
homeschoolers,
so yeah,
you're good to go.
Homeschoolers, yes, yeah. There
Actually,
you go.
actually, Rachel was also homeschooled, and I just assumed she'd be terrible at volleyball, but that wasn't true. She's got volleyball skills.
That is good. So you attacked homeschoolers for something totally different.
Yeah.
I was
They
going
still
their
get
education.
I wouldn't say
Their
attack. I'm
education
just,
level.
sometimes you're like,
You're-
hey,
no.
I can play volleyball. You're like, nah, I don't think that's going to. Well, I will say this. Northwestern, for years, kids that graduated from Northwestern, if
Yeah.
they didn't actually play on the volleyball team, if it wasn't girls, the guys were always trained to tomahawk for some reason. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I interlock my hands together and I go over my head and hit the volleyball as hard as I can, or jab at it. Chris Bright probably perfected it, but it was like everyone that came out of Northwestern did it. And I
That's
was
like the
why?
move for volleyball?
Yes.
Oh, man.
They
So
don't have a
homeschoolers,
volleyball
don't feel bad that you
yeah,
didn't go to
they-
Northwestern because they were trained to tomahawk
Yeah.
or a jib jab, whatever you want to call that.
A jib jab. Well, that's either way. Yeah. Nice. So we are actually going to be. Rachel's just so disgusted right
It's
now.
like we would never have this problem if we were all homeschooled.
Yeah.
I believe in Honduras they say no bueno.
No, bueno. Yes. Yes. So we are going to talk about your guys' experience in
Guess
the
if
trip
we have
to Honduras, which you guys left 3:45. You met at the Erie airport.
I believe it was
Easter morning.
4:45.
Okay, 4:45.
And just to get my story out there, they all made fun of me when I told them to come earlier. Then I get there at 4:45, and almost everybody except for one person, I can't remember who got there after I got there, was already there. Bags
Like,
checked in,
yeah.
staring
It was
at me
me.
with disdain. I
I
was like,
will,
you
I
guys
will verify that.
I
verbally
live the
berated
closest,
me
and
when I suggested we get there earlier, and they all stare at me with rage, like, "Hey, I'm sorry you had to spend extra $35 to check your bags."
Yeah. Nice.
We all heard 4:30, not 4:45.
That is not true.
Yeah.
If I have learned one thing from you, Senior Garrett, is you hear what you want to hear.
That's true. There are some people that could back that up. And Aiden, I don't want to say that that was a waste of oxygen, but there was an assumption that if there was one person later than Steve, it would have been a Cooper. So, like, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was. It was.
Oh, dang.
And like you said, he lives the closest. He's like right there by the airport. But
How dare you?
yeah. So, I mean, it's, you know what you have to do to get there. And so it's like, yeah, you get there last second. I would have done the same thing. No. So, but you guys obviously had a great time. A lot of things that were done on the trip. It does really echo. We recently had our spring missions weekend here at the church, and it echoes just the true passion of the church for global missions. We very much have a passion here locally with the WLD Ranch and all the things that we do here as a church in the community. But really, there has always been a heartbeat of the church for global missions. And so it's neat to have, our third team go out in the last 6 months and go to various places. But you guys went to Honduras. We have been, I don't even know how many times, to church. Over the years, we have a great relationship with Nueva Esperanza. Morgan Ring, someone who's homegrown, is a full-time missionary there right now. And so there was a lot of great things that went on. The other cool thing was besides Steve, you 5 and 3 others went on a mission trip for the first time. And then a 4th other went to Nueva for the first time, because Pam Duffin has been to the Dominican with the women's trip, a couple times, but she had never been in Nueva. So, there was 8 first-timers out of the 13, and then a 9th first-timer to Honduras. So it was great to have that. So those that are, you went for the first time, love to hear, what was your experience? Garrett needs to switch sides. He's distracted by the books on the wall. Oh my God.
I'm just looking at all the ones that I have at home.
We're in a library, if you don't realize.
Sorry. This is going to be the squirrel episode. Anyways, what was something about their culture and way of life that just kind of struck you as different as you got there? Isaac, you're looking like you're leaning in, so I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I was going to say something that Rachel, I think, also notices how hands-on they are. Like, there's always them coming up to you and they're hugging you, all the kids. And it's something that I'm not used to, really. So that was...
Yeah, so like you're not...
It's because you're sweaty.
Yeah.
That was unnecessary. Yeah, everybody is.
Yeah, everybody was. So are you not a natural hugger?
Not really, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Like, there's a lot of people that just aren't. So down there, they didn't really care about personal bubble or personal space, is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Can you tell
Okay.
it through your voice?
Isaac, are you trying to make sure that your voice doesn't inflect at all? You're like trying so hard. It's like,
I am not ogre.
Well, Steve, since he pointed it out, I kind of have to.
there you go.
there
See,
you go.
nice.
Yeah.
Showing
I was
no
gonna say.
emotion.
So it's just not just that you don't like hugging. There's no emotion. Like, you try to be even keel. Like, it's just there's a theme that no.
Dang, man.
Okay, so the fact that they were, they were just more of a part of their language of communication was physical touch and hugging, and everyone hugged. What were some other things that stood out to you guys as you went to Honduras for the first time, or possibly to a foreign country for the first time?
I mean, something that stood out for me really was just seeing the pure joy that some of the kids had.
Yeah.
Like, especially seeing what some of their homes are when we delivered the bunk bed that we made to the house. Just seeing like the conditions that they live in, and we were told that the one that we saw was actually good.
Yeah.
It was actually looked good, and like a small amount of people. Like there was only 4 of them in the family, right?
Yeah, it was actually the mom and the dad were together, so that's rare. About 80% are single families who they reach, but that's not always the case. I knew of one dad that was the single parent, but usually it's just the mom. But yeah, the house we delivered to was 2 young girls live in the house with their 2 parents, basically like half the size of the Faith Chapel.
Of this room,
Yeah, probably about that. And just one room with a bathroom, so kind of like an efficiency maybe, the kitchenette, but it's all one common space. But what separated that one out is it was nice, a tiled floor, like that's rare, and the steps even all paved, and
And they had their own bathroom.
And they had
I was going to
In their
ask,
house.
like you said, your own bath, like that's a rare thing.
Yeah, some don't have bathrooms. It's other means of taking care of yourself. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were some things for you guys?
I think just like looking at how they value certain things. I mean, this was my first time going down there, and just looking at how they like the animals. Like what stood out to me was they love their kids and everything. You think about being impoverished and everything. Sometimes like I feel like, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but like up here it's like the kids aren't as important. Like in poverty situations, like the kids get neglected. Down there, I wouldn't say they were neglected, but it's not like they were neglected because their parents didn't like them. Their parents love them, and like that was kind of an eye opener, just because like from a poverty standpoint up here, I feel like like if you're in a impoverished state up here, you're probably handling with some kind of like abusive situations, I guess. I don't want to say
at times. Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't say too much, but like but there are times and experiences depending on, especially if you're in certain ministries, you might encounter more of that.
Right.
But there's plenty of people that might not have financial means, but are perfect. Like love their kids and there's not abuse there.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But what I was just shocked was like just how like sometimes like even going to Nueva Esperanza, just learning basically how like it's very hard for the parents to want to actually give them up to Nueva Esperanza for just that little bit of time.
For a little bit of
because
time.
they love them so much. It's like, oh, like this is they're very family focused, and I was just kind of like, wow, like I wasn't expecting that down there, and then also just I was talking originally about the animals and everything. What kind of stood out to me is, growing up in the country, our horses are in pens and everything, and we keep our dogs in like on our properties and everything, and there's dogs everywhere. So I wasn't actually expecting that. I was expecting cats, but they have dogs everywhere roaming the streets. And then the other thing that was just kind of like a cultural shock was like when you're in the country, there's literally picture I-79, and in between the two lanes of traffic, there's that grass patch. There'd be like donkeys and horses right in the middle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. We're telling like Harper, we're like, hey Harper, look, there's another horse.
Yeah.
Oh, we can take that one back to the ranch. Let's go. Yeah. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
Let's grab it.
They're instead of free range chickens, which they have free range chickens, they have free range horses. Yeah. I was just saying.
It's was this different because I was thinking like you could steal that horse or something, but I think part of it is just you have to also provide for it too.
Yeah, I was
and
just saying.
They're like, no, we're not gonna.
I'm not gonna take it because they don't have the means to provide for it.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah.
I noticed, like, when we drove into Tegucigalpa, which is where Nueva Esperanza is, everything's made of concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. The houses. Here's one house. Here's another house. And then there's one, like, right here. And then over here. And it's so wild. So wild. And I told Terry, I was like, do things ever catch on fire here? Like, it's all concrete. He goes, well, just the paint. And I was like, oh. And he goes, and then that becomes extremely toxic. And I was like,
yeah.
That's just not good. So I feel like that was interesting. And then people just sell random food on the side of the road. Like, it's not like vendors. Like, there were people selling whole chickens, like butchered chickens.
Yeah.
In this little stand thing. And I was like, it's not like Walmart where you just go and buy a packaged chicken.
It was
wild.
It's so like difficult because I know that I would get sick, but when I'm in the Dominican on mission trips, it looks like there's so much good food, but it's they use the water, they're used to it, all these different things, and I try to get Nelson to like let us buy some of the stuff. He goes, no, don't buy that, don't buy that.
I did have corn on a stick one year.
Oh yeah,
it was feed corn. I'll be honest with you. Even though it was feed corn, and Carlos,
still fun.
Carlos warned us. I was like, I am going to get corn on a stick. It was good.
Wait, you
There you go.
didn't pay the price?
No, just like with corn, it doesn't matter. Corn in Honduras is going to do the same to you that corn does here. I'm just saying.
Yes.
And we don't need to go into details, but Rachel and I do have to take some kids home. She's taking a gal home. I got to take a few kids home. So I'd like Rachel maybe to share the pivotal moment or something.
Yeah, because I would love to hear like what we're gonna get to, but and we'll talk about funny stories and things like that. But like, I really want to know. Yeah, I know. I really want to know like where did God move? So like for you, what was the takeaway that God spoke to you personally? Because I say to my teams that I have the privilege to lead all the time, if you think the greatest thing that you're going to get out of this mission trip is what you're going to do for other people, you have totally missed the boat. because God has something to teach you. Yes, we get to serve, all those things, but you will learn from the people that we are going down there to meet, and God wants to speak to you in a special way. So what would you say would be like what you can share was your takeaway?
So I think it was 2 days before we left, Colin comes up to me and he says, Rachel, we're in charge of games. And I was like, okay, because when Colin's in charge of games, I'm in charge of games. Whenever, like when Colin's in charge of something, I am also in charge of something.
Well,
and that's just how it works.
You were married and you've become one.
We are one.
One flesh, one in flesh and games.
And it was weird because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, game, like that's what we're doing. Like we're playing games. And that's what we did with these kids for half an hour every day. They came to us, and that was our whole job, was to play games. And obviously, we couldn't really talk to them. Because of the language barrier, there was a translator, and I mean, she was great, but she didn't really speak much English, so it was difficult. And so it was really more of just observing. Like, you get your point across, and then you just watch. Because the little kids, you tell them what we're doing, and then they just run around and scream the whole time, and you're like, oh, this is not what we're... One kid at one point started, like, eating another kid like he was a tiger, and I was like, I don't know what game we're playing anymore.
Like, he, just full-on jumped on the kid and just started, gnawing on him.
So it was just...
Nice.
Like, the first couple days, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. And by, I think it was Wednesday, I talked to Suzanne about something, and she was like, I've been asking God to say, to tell me what he was talking about. So... I was brushing my teeth and I was like, God, I don't know what you're doing or what I'm here for, but I'd really appreciate it if you would show me something, please. And then after that, we were Friday, we were in Bible study with some of the teenagers, and Suzanne told me beforehand, she's like, we're going to share our favorite verses and why we like them. And so my favorite verse is Psalms 51:12, which says, restore to me the joy of my salvation and uphold me with a willing spirit. And it occurred to me after that, just look around and see. And there's the people that work with the teens. There's the people that work with the kids. There's the kids themselves, the youths themselves. They're always smiling. They're always happy. They're joyful. They're laughing. They're saying funny things. They're laughing at us because we don't know what we're doing. And there's just so much joy. And especially the staff. It was really interesting to see and to watch how they interact with those kids, and then to look at myself and think, I'm in the same situation. Yeah. We teach kids church second service every Sunday. Every Sunday. And those are the exact same kids. They're just here. And it challenged me to think, how am I really showing them the joy of the Lord? How am I pouring the love of Jesus onto them, even though they're not nearly in the same situations?
But they are so observant, and they are watching your every move.
It was so...
Whether you think that or not, they are taking in every single bit of it.
It was
crazy.
And
if you question,
Absolutely.
I'll record Emery and what she talks about from kids' church of the details of everything, which is great. But there's such an opportunity to impact.
And that's...
in that.
And it's amazing because I still remember my junior church teachers, my Sunday school teachers, and the impact that they had on my life. And Colin and I talk about it all the time with each other. What are we really doing to impact these kids? How is God actually working through us? So it was just a great reminder to be where is my joy really rooted in that I'm actually sharing with these kids? And a prime example is we were on the playground. The kids were playing basketball, essentially, kind of. Yeah. So
Honduran basketball.
I'm standing. I'm kind of observing, cheering everybody on, booing these guys when they made a basket because they're 6 feet tall. Who cares? Yeah. So, and it was a 30-minute period, and within that 30-minute period, Harper had walked up to me 8 different times and said, "How do you say what's your name in Spanish again? How do you say what's your name in Spanish again?" And by the 8th time, I was like, "Cómo se llama?" Yeah. Is what's your name in Spanish? She'd be like, right. Yeah. And so then, after those kids had left, she walks up, she, skipping up to me with this paper in her hand, and she goes, "Rachel, I learned 9 kids' names today."
Yeah.
That I was playing with, and I was like,
"How many did you get, Rachel?"
And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And
yeah,
she was able to like say them to me, and she wrote them down so she wouldn't forget. And then the rest of the week, she'd be like, "Look, that's Dixie, or that's whatever her name is." And it occurred to me afterwards, I was like, "Wow, were you really nice to her? Did you really like take that in?" Because I was so confused because she'd just run away and I wouldn't see her again. I'd be like, "What is she doing?" Yeah. But just to have that reminder of like even where my joy comes from when I work every day, when I'm working with adults that are older than me, and that kind of just was definitely impactful. And I hope that it keeps impacting me and changes my ministry here. Yeah. Where I'm at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Steve, before you go, I know that we got a chance in staff meeting to hear a few things. Yeah. But can you pinpoint like if there was a main thing that God really spoke to you about?
Yeah, there was.
Because there was a lot.
There was a lot. So I'll just share the one on this is my 5th time down there, and this is the first time I've spent this much time at the actual daycare with the kids and the youth. Yeah. Which was awesome. At first I was like, man, I kind of like work projects, but I really enjoyed this. And one of the main reasons is it gave me a chance to actually hear the stories from the staff. Yeah. And one of the stories I got to hear was Stephanie's story. Yeah. She grew up in the mission, and I knew that because I had seen her previous times, and I knew she could speak English pretty well, actually. And so much so, she was an interpreter for us. And so she's currently going to school and working at the mission, or working at Nueva Esperanza. And so I got the opportunity to hear her story, and it was a powerful one. When she was born, of course, her dad had abandoned her mom, and her mom was working at essentially what I would consider a bar. I think in translation, that's kind of what I figured. And there was nowhere for her to go. Her mom didn't want to lock her in her home like so many do. Basically to keep them safe. This is not because they want to neglect their children. They need money to survive. They're not going to eat. So the best thing they can do is leave their child in the home and put a lock on the outside.
Everything else going on.
Yeah, on the out. So there's just, and then I just thinking that as a parent, I couldn't function all day long knowing my child is, and I'm sure they can't either. So her mom takes her in a box, puts her in essentially the busing station, where you're putting all the plates and things like that. So she's out of the way, hidden. And Stephanie's just in there coloring books, coloring the box with a little flashlight. And Stephanie's sharing this was a good experience for her. And that's where essentially her love for art, I think, was established. And
this wasn't like a couple hours. Like these were
all day long,
days that she would be there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this was her story. And then eventually they got caught. And the owner was like, this can't go on. Like, you cannot have your child here. Someone in that bar knew of Nueva Esperanza, told them, and that changed her life dramatically, completely changed. Her mom came to Christ. She came to Christ. And her mom's got a great job. And now Stephanie is working towards getting her degree in psychology so she can continue to work with children. Yeah. And just powerful. And she said, my mom has said, if we hadn't have found Nueva Esperanza, we would be lost. She wouldn't even know where their lives would be at that moment. So it's just that chance that someone at this restaurant, bar, whatever, knew of Nueva Esperanza and was able to get her there. And I believe Jen and Conrad are her sponsor, or one of her sponsors. And so to hear a story like that, it's powerful, Yeah. And being a parent, like my daughter was there, Harper, being a parent and just knowing the turmoil these parents have to go through, it breaks your heart. So that was there was many. That was one of the impactful moments for me this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just such a, like you said, powerful story because Nueva could then provide the daycare for the mom to work, and then they get to share the gospel. Yep. And they get to not just share the gospel in word, but in action. And how much that changed. It basically rewrote the trajectory of their family's life.
Correct. Yep.
Which is amazing.
Well, I'm going to take off. It was great being here. I got some ewes roaming around, so hopefully we didn't break anything. Yeah.
Sam will be after you if they did. No. Okay, so Aiden, I'd love to, since you haven't got to share yet, I'd love to hear what was it that God spoke to you about? Like, what was it that kind of like Rachel and Steve just shared? What was it that was your greatest takeaway from the trip spiritually?
I think like the biggest thing that I saw was when we were in our Bible study. It was like the end of it, we were wrapping up, and our translator, Hernan, he went to pray and he started praying in Spanish.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I was just thinking, well, then we'll have to like pray in English or whatever in our heads. And he started like praying in both languages.
Yeah.
And it was like he would say something in Spanish, say something in English. And that was the prayer. And it was like, whoa. I struggle sometimes just praying in one language, and he's able to do it like talking in a group of people with two languages. Mm-hmm. And I think that is like the biggest like thing that I took from it. Like I need to work on like my prayer and practice and like stuff to pray for.
Yeah.
And that was
that was a
biggest thing.
conviction, a point of conviction for you in the trip, which is great. You said that was towards the end of the trip? Or was it towards the beginning?
I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay, so middle of the trip.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
What about the rest of you guys? What was something that stood out to you and God's greatest teaching for you during the time?
So I'll just jump in here.
Yeah.
Just because I gave you guys opportunities. I looked at you guys.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You tried. Yeah.
I think
now they'll have more time to talk.
Yeah.
Or not talk. I'm sorry.
I have the floor.
I meant to say they'll have more time to think before they talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I kind of took away from the mission trip was, I guess, the question of why we do short-term mission trips. Mm-hmm. Because I told this to Carlos and Barbara down there, and at the fire circle, we have like the time of like when the same exact question. They get us around a fire, and we ask this question. And so the story goes back about a year before the Honduras trips when we're actually planning for it, because I was working with Steve at the time about planning for this trip, and he was talking about, hey, we're gonna go down to Honduras. We're gonna take some of the youth. We haven't been back there in since 2019, before COVID and everything. So he was all excited. I'm like, oh, and I'm kind of just getting excited just because he's excited,
Yeah.
And then as we zoom forward and we're approaching it and everything, I'm asking my question like why am I going on this short-term mission trip? Like, I'm excited because like this is my first time going, and we're doing games and everything, but to be quite honest with you, like I kind of had a negative view of short-term mission trips because there's two things I've heard or I would see. The one is like this is like a Christian vacation. Basically you go down and people that go on short-term mission trips, they just really want to go see another country and just want to take this like vacation, and the abuse of like, hey, this is just for my Instagram and my Facebook, and look at me serving and all this stuff. I'm really suffering for the Lord as I'm drinking this martini over here, and all this stuff. So like, there's this like implication, like, okay, like I had this idea, like, okay, if you go on short-term mission trips, some people are doing it for the Lord, but there's a lot of people that are just not doing it for the Lord. And then the other reason I kind of had a negative connotation towards it was that like the host nation, they don't really want you there. I gotta have you for like an entire week where I gotta host you. Mm-hmm. What are we gonna have them do? Here's a project, you can do this. So, it's almost we'll make up a project for
Here's
you to do.
Here's some busy work.
Yeah, and so that changed when I went down there, and when I got to go down there and see just what we were doing, and then also like literally Morgan Ring had a pay, like we were sitting down and she gave a presentation of why we do short-term mission trips.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, like you're spending about a week down there, probably not going to like win a whole nation to Christ in that short week. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, the reality is that you're possibly not going to have any conversions.
Yeah. So there has to be what's the bigger reason, I guess. And it's one is the impact it has on you as an individual. It's shocking that it helps you with your walk with Christ, because like Rachel just shared how like she was just looking at all the staff and everything and how they were pouring. She saw the joy that they had and everything. So that obviously had an implication on her, but it also had like this implication on me. Like when I was looking down at all the staff and everything and what they were doing and the kids, it got me excited about what was going down there. So like when I come back from Honduras and I tell like the rest of the congregation, like whether it's on this podcast or in person or whatever, like, hey, this is exciting what's going down there. Nueva Esperanza is growing and everything, or even there's people coming to know Christ, and so I'm kind of like an ambassador now for them, and just kind of like getting them involved. Like, hey, like that, that when we give that money to missions, you're wondering if it's actually working. It's working, man. Keep going. Like this, it's like an encouragement back to the church. Like, yeah. So, I mean, I could keep going on about short-term mission trips now, but it's just basically brought to the importance of why we do them, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is not just the encouragement of going back to the church, which that's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
But did it light a flame in your own life?
Oh, yeah.
Because global missions is a call for everyone. That doesn't mean that it's a call that we should all go, but we should all, at minimum, be praying for missionaries that we support, for others going on short-term trips, whatever it might be. And then I would argue that at some level, God's asking you to have an open hand with your finances when it comes to missions as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what missionaries are you supporting? What ministries are you supporting? And that's something that's grown over time with me and Angie. But it's like, like those are the things. And does God want you to go on another short-term mission trip? But that's definitely a great thing. And to have both of those. So who's next?
Yeah, I got it.
Garrett or Isaac? Okay, so what was it? Yeah, what was it that God taught you through this trip?
I guess it was kind of a little bit of what I was saying earlier about the joy of kids, but also something that really popped in my head was the small things in life. A lot of things that we have here in the U.S. that they don't have down there in Honduras and stuff. And it's stuff that we just look over every day, like just HVAC, heating, cooling, and all that stuff, or like basic plumbing in our houses. Yeah. And I don't think about how that's a blessing from God that we have that, and it makes our lives easier. And it's a way for God to show us that we don't have to worry about that kind of thing. We should be focusing what we instead on sharing for Him and stuff. So it was really that, seeing all the stuff that they don't have that we just look over here in the U.S. and don't acknowledge.
Yeah. And so, like you said, the blessings and the little things in life are also good.
No.
Sorry, I was looking at Garrett. Well, it looked like you were raising your hand or flagging me down out of the corner of my eye.
There was one of the things like you talked about culturally, and I think it's kind of perfect because you talk about just like the natural, blessings of just having like your own, bathroom and everything. Like one of the things that we were taught at the mission house was like when you go to use the restroom, don't flush your toilet paper.
No toilet paper can go down the toilet.
I was
in the Dominican the same way.
I was okay with that, but I was like, I was like, well, but like not okay. Like I was like, okay, they told me not to do that, but why? And like I when they explained it, I was like, oh, okay. But it had like there's a thought process like I'm not supposed to throw this down the toilet. I'm going to throw it in the trash. Now I have to do this. So, but then I'm thinking like, man, like in 90-degree heat, that stinks. So the like
literally,
yes,
We had frijoles, people.
Yes.
We had beans
Those refried
every
beans
day.
were rough.
Every day. The
Not
toilets
just
were
every meal. Not just every
working
day. Every
hard.
single meal.
Yes,
Was
there was-
refried beans.
Okay.
Sorry. We had to explain that.
Yeah. Hey, it's
And so
your
then
systems weren't used to it.
our systems weren't used to it, and it was just, that's something you gotta get used to.
To do the walk of shame with the plunger from all the way upstairs
Oh,
down to the bathroom. They did have a plunger in the bathroom. I clogged the toilet. I had to walk all the way from the third level with the plunger through the rooms and outside. And
Was
everybody
everybody
was
out
sitting.
there watching?
No, I just they were playing a board game in
Yeah,
the
we were
kitchen,
playing
like
Taco
the
Bell,
dining room
Goat Cheese
area.
Pizza. We
And they
were
were
like,
just
what?
all just sitting,
Yeah.
staring at me, seeing me walk by with the plunger in my hand, just like head down, like, why?
He clogged it.
And of course, the bathroom was in that room.
Oh
It
man.
was the beans.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I'm clean.
So we went from what God is teaching us to funny, but let's go back to what God is
Go
teaching
back.
us. Yeah, let's,
Wait, now I have to follow up that.
Isaac, get us back on track.
Train of
please.
thought gone.
Yeah.
Get us a story like Steve.
Oh, a story like Steve. I don't know if I can do that.
Compassion.
Yeah, so I guess similar to Rachel, just seeing all of the staff working and really just how much joy they have when they serve. And I know the ranch is similar in the fact that you're there for like pretty much the whole day and you're just week after week. So I can understand how it feels to be exhausted after working. But the fact that they're able to just continue to be joyful and like always have a smile on their face, even after doing that day in and day out, it just kind of spoke to me. And like, how can I change my behavior at the ranch? Like as the summer drags on, you get really tired and it's just really exhausting being out there. But it's also important to remember that just because you're tired doesn't mean you should put any less effort in.
Yeah, and I don't know if they still say it, but I mean, obviously, I worked out at the ranch 25 plus years ago. But like, so, but I vividly remember, my dad reminding us that just because it's week 4, 5, or 6 for you, it's week 1 for that kid.
Oh yeah, they say that.
Yeah,
They keep
like,
reminding us.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and
And
so
the
Crickets are coming. Don't forget about that. The crickets are coming.
oh
coming.
man, the reality is again, kids pick up on every little thing. They can tell if you're being pissy. And like, man, they're talking about God, and obviously God doesn't do anything because they're not affecting that one. Now, we all make mistakes. We all get tired. We all get run down. But there is an element of where's the joy of the Lord. And that's what, like, when you guys were gone, the sermon on Sunday was talking about the peace of God and how truly the peace of God that's being offered to us is, a peace that isn't affected at all by any outside circumstances. How often can we say we actually walk in that? To have the peace and joy of God no matter what is happening. And so that's great that was, like you said, a reminder for you and a conviction. So you are working at the ranch again this summer?
That is the plan. I got my paperwork, I think yesterday actually.
So meaning you got it done and turned in, or got it to fill out?
I got my agreement to serve in the mail.
Okay. Nice.
Hold up. I was the third person this summer that was actually interviewed, and I still haven't gotten my papers.
Hey,
how did you get yours?
I sent my application in. I think I was the first one, so
Touché.
I got a hat.
Touche.
I said they told me that Hannah and Ethan were the only 2 before me.
They live there, though. That doesn't count.
Yeah. I was just saying.
But it's kind of cool. You guys are talking about like the ranch and everything. It's kind of a cool testament. Like, okay, I'm not saying the ranch like trains missionaries, but they do. I mean,
Well, I was going to say there's a bunch of people that have.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's
Ranch,
kind of a cool,
ranch,
but like,
ranch.
even you were mentioning how like the ranch was how
Morgan
you,
Ring before she went, how many
Right.
summers she worked at the ranch.
So they do train missionaries.
Yeah.
Which I'm basically what I'm just trying to say is like that training that we've because everyone here now at this table has worked at the ranch in some capacity. I'm not sure. I had a little Anna on the back of my shoulder saying, "Do not complain about anything. Try everything." You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I'm not gonna complain about like
she wasn't on my shoulder. She was there in my life. Yeah, It was like,
I'm not gonna complain about throwing toilet paper in the trash. Anna's gonna be cursing at me. Like, you don't complain about that. That's how they do it down here. They give us beans. We're eating all of them.
Yeah,
You know.
clear your plate, be happy, and move on.
But the idea of too of like serving with joy, like that stuff I learned at WLD Ranch when I was hot and I was tired and I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it.
Yeah. You're gonna be happy.
With joy.
You don't get a choice.
So like, I mean, honestly, I told at the camp, I was saying like, it was it kind of reminded me when I was on that mission trip because we were working with the kids. I was like, this is just like at the ranch. I love it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, and it is something that is great to be able to watch that, and I gotta believe that there's so many similarities to some of the serving we do in the Dominican, in Honduras. Like, it's infectious when you have that many kids that are just full of joy, running around. Like, it really does make it so much easier to see, the beauty in things, and just to have that joy and to have that excitement, and it's a neat thing. Okay, so I know maybe this won't be hard to top. Maybe it'll be very easy to top, but I don't know. Like, Garrett's walk of shame with the plunger was pretty hilarious in my mind. So, what were some other? Oh boy. Okay,
I have a list.
No, there's two lists. There's a Calan list.
Yeah,
and then everybody else.
I have a Calan list, which is like
everybody watching on video could see Aiden bringing his phone out.
5 different
things
from Calan, and then
my thing was, if it was a video, like it needs to be So it's just a list. So Aiden, what was let's see. You can choose what was your number one.
From Calan or from every
your number one?
Is this the funniest things that was happening?
Well, just something that happened that was funny on the trip. Like,
I would say the drive. I would say the driving with Morgan on. We went to the restaurant on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday night, and on our way back, Garrett, Isaac, Adam, and me, we all rode in Morgan's car, and Honduran driving is very different.
Oh yeah.
Than
I just
driving
awesome
here.
That all of us started out because you don't wear seatbelts down there. It's not a requirement, so nobody does it. We started out that way.
Hey, Mom, guess what? No seatbelts.
Isaac's like, don't say that.
We didn't wear seatbelts.
Yeah.
Hey,
no, I'm not afraid for me. I'm afraid for Garrett.
Oh, yeah. I'm scared more for Aiden.
I hate Mom.
Yeah.
We rode in the back of trucks going 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't that fast.
So anyways, you were riding back, and it was. So was it more crazy than like on the bus because it was in a car?
Well,
was it Morgan's driving? Was it?
It's just scary.
See, I like to make fun of Morgan just because. I don't know. She's the same age as Taylor, so it's like basically my sister.
Yeah.
Almost. So I just started pestering her and like making sly comments about her driving. And then eventually, Garrett
it turned into screaming.
Slow
down! You're gonna hit that car.
We took a turn. It was, oh my God, we're gonna die.
We're gonna fall out.
I can picture that, and I can also picture Morgan screaming back to shut up.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, I was gonna say just so
the people understand, like when you go through Honduras, they have road signs, and those are literally just suggestions, like 0.5 miles per hour. Just a suggestion. It's not like a requirement. And motorcycles, they'll go right in between the lanes. They ride on the yellow line. So it's
motorcycles are everywhere.
Yeah. So like when you're driving, like, you drive so much safer in the U.S. I'm just gonna say that.
And you have like the mothers riding on the back of the motorcycle with an infant in one arm and a propane tank in the other.
Yeah,
because that's what they have to grab. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I've never been to Honduras, but in the Dominican,
There's usually
it's
5
like-
people on a motorcycle.
Oh,
we
yeah.
saw 5 or 4
Oh, yeah.
on a motorcycle. I'm like,
Absolutely.
all right, let's
Many
do
in the
it.
back
Yeah.
of trucks and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we
you
saw, like-
pile in, or like some of the cargo vans or the vans that are like taxi vans
Yeah.
don't have doors.
It's a
on the
redneck
side.
paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna say that.
is
Like,
so
A redneck's paradise.
yeah, like, you talking about like some good old boys from PA? Like, yeah, we're gonna go
Yeah.
down to Honduras, ride on the
It's
back
like
of
Ashton
trucks.
Bill,
Like,
Ohio, but a whole country.
But even with the
man.
crazy driving, it was like skillful crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like no
Oh, yeah.
accidents. There weren't
Everybody
any
knows
accidents.
what
It was
everybody
like-
else is gonna do.
I don't know about that. There was a lot of dents in their cars.
Well,
They would look nice, and then
Well,
also
yeah, but you guys. So for all the driving that you saw and experienced, you didn't see any accidents, is what you're
No.
saying.
correct.
oh, okay.
So like there was a lot of opportunities for accidents, and it
yeah.
didn't
Oh,
happen.
plenty.
Last
Yeah.
reaching of the tires, though. Remember that?
Now I don't know.
yeah.
I'm sure that there's some element of this in Honduras, but like in the Dominican, the driving is insane. There's a bunch of stoplights and all this other stuff, and it's just, again, there's no point, because I mean you're driving through red lights all the time, but it's so packed with cars and motorcycles that it's just you're not going very fast because it's just so packed. And it is, because I asked Nelson, our supported missionary, who's been up to the church a couple times, hey, so like what's the general rule? How do you guys not get in more accidents with what you're doing? And he's like, well, big man always wins. Like as long as you're aggressive and like a truck is bigger than you, you concede. A bus is bigger than the truck, then you concede. Like you don't, like you always concede to what everyone's bigger. And so it's like, yeah, it's understandable. One of the highlights of one of my trips, this might have been trip 7. We had to go to the store, and I was with one of the workers. This was before I was here at the Federated Church. It was at Grace, and I had a team down there, and it was pitch black. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and the worker for Vision Trust jokingly said, "You want to drive?" I was like, "Absolutely." And she threw me the keys, and then she was shocked when I got in, and there was like 4 or 5 of us, and I'm just like, "Yeah, just be aggressive." And it was the funnest. Oh yeah,
Morgan.
it was the most fun driving, and she screamed a couple times, but we didn't hit anything. Like
I tried to,
and it was good.
I tried to convince this Hunter. I can't remember his name. He was in the kitchen. Can you guys help me out?
Oh, Geraldo?
Geraldo. Yeah, thank you. I tried. He would ride a motorcycle every day.
You wanted to ride the
I
motorcycle.
wanted
Yeah.
to ride it so bad. Morgan said no, though. I despise that so much. That's my biggest regret right now.
Ben got to ride the back of a motorcycle during
Morgan.
food distributions. Now, granted, it was in one of the rural towns. Like it was in La Represa, so there wasn't a ton of traffic.
Tegucigalpa is pretty rural.
Not so much at all.
Colin, there's not a foot between each building.
Yeah, but like,
There's horses in the
Ben
road.
Kenyon got to ride around on the last day. He was all excited, and plus his parents weren't there, so that's why I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, Ben." Yeah. So, other funny stories, things that stood out.
Colin, do you want to talk about you trying to
No,
speak
why don't
Spanish?
you and Linda.
tell it, and then I will.
Do you want your
Whoa,
list?
wait a second. Who's Linda?
Oh,
Linda's an interpreter.
Colin asked
down
if she
there.
was single.
in Spanish
No, I did not.
on
Okay.
accident.
You remember you're married and your wife was
No,
there?
I
Like, what?
really-
Yeah.
I literally.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness.
Colin.
No.
What kind of missions trip was this?
That's the second thing on the list.
There's a
All
lot
right,
more.
so I have to explain the Linda signal thing. I feel like the most because now you guys brought that up. What happened was, I'm trying to like, so I'm one of those guys like I really want to learn, and the best way to learn is by doing. And so I want to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
Best way to do it is just say the words and try to formulate a sentence. And all right, there we go. So I forgot,
Okay, yeah.
So I forgot.
Spanglish, yeah.
I forgot what senora and senorita mean.
Okay.
And so I went up to some lady. It was Linda and it was Stephanie. I said, senora, and it wasn't senora because they are not married. You don't say
Senorita is single.
Yes.
Senora is married.
So I said, so I'm like, senora, and she's like, no, senora. señorita. I'm like, señorita, bien. And when you say the bien at the end, you're like, it's like basically saying, so your signal, okay, good. And that's when I walked off.
Good
Colin,
meaning
you
that
gotta
you're
add,
interested.
add the accent because you
I
didn't
didn't
just say
add
that.
accent.
Oh no, Colin!
No, I did not.
You were
add-
changing the culture down there. You were
I was
joining
like-
them
I
and
was like,
changing them.
okay, so I was trying to also because when I hear things, I'm trying to incorporate.
Please
the
tell me
language.
it didn't just come out like you were mocking them.
No, I wasn't trying to mock them. I was more of like trying to be
I'm
like.
not saying you were trying, but they might have still
No.
been offended. No,
I'm like I'm trying to. I thought that's how you pronounced it, so I was like, "Señora," and they're like, "No, señora." And I'm like, "Señorita," and they're like, "Sí, señorita." Ah, señorita, bien. And I went like that, and so that basically was like, Stephanie was basically came back. She's like, "Are you asking if she's single?" I'm like, "No, I'm just trying to figure out what's the difference."
bien meaning good. I got it right.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
got it,
understand.
right. Yeah. Well, she's like, you just asked if she was single, and she was like, kind of like mocking me, and she's kind of laughing at me. I'm like, no, esposa.
Yeah.
I was waiting to my ring. I was like, I'm married, and she's right
Isn't
here.
it? I don't know Spanish, but isn't it esposa, not espousa?
Colin doesn't know
Esposa.
Spanish.
It's
either.
Spanglish. It's like
It's Spanglish either way.
Personia.
Esposa
Colin
is the
doesn't
female.
know Spanish either.
Well,
There was an element of like. Also, I think Steve told a story in staff meeting about how you pronounced how important you were to everyone.
yes, yes.
Or like
That's-
not pronounced,
that's-
announced
that's
to
number
everyone.
one.
That's the
That's
next.
number
Like-
one
That's
because they were
number one.
literally like it was like the first
Again
day.
with Linda.
Yeah, again, this was again with Linda because Linda was my interpreter, like
For the
basically for the
games.
games and everything. It's like she was my interpreter for the games, so I always had her. So she had to
Doesn't make
deal
it
with
any
me.
better.
So that's how it goes. So
It was a real good thing that your wife was helping you with games
Yes.
since you were trying to hit on the
no,
interpreter.
it was oh my gosh,
Whether you were or weren't, it was happening.
my wife was there. Okay, so
So
anyway,
you announced how important you were to her?
So this is what happened. So one of the few things that I'm going to back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the things like that I learned was how to talk to an interpreter. And
Yeah.
so like when they were talking about talking slow to an interpreter, they don't mean actually like talk slow like this. They mean just say one or two sentences, which I didn't realize at the time. So when I got down there, they're kind of like, hey, you just got to talk to the slow interpreters. And so I was like, okay, so I have to talk really slow like this. And so like there was a lot of miscommunication during the day, and I could tell sometimes it was just funny and we were laughing, but sometimes I could tell the interpreter is like having like a hard time, and it could be frustrating that when you have to interpret for multiple people. So I felt bad, and I was like, okay, I know some words in Spanish. And I think I got this down. And that's why I wanted to say, hey, Linda, you're very important. Thank you for helping us out today. That's what I wanted to do.
You were trying to tell Linda she was important and what she did was
Yes.
very important. Yeah,
Yes.
which is great.
So I went up to her and I said, yo soy importante. Gracias. I basically said in Spanish. Yeah.
Soy muy
I did say that.
importante.
I say, soy yo muy
Gracias.
importante. Gracias. And it basically means, I am very important.
Thank you.
And I walked away. And then she, like, the next
So one
day,
of your gifts is encouragement. That gift is not bilingual.
No,
You were
I got the
trying
gift
to
of tongues.
encourage.
I don't have the gift of tongues yet.
No, I'm saying like it's the encouragement.
I was trying
you
to-
tried in Spanish,
Yeah.
and it came out arrogance. No,
But
Yeah.
she was. I was wondering why she was laughing at me when I said that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a good time. All right.
Yeah.
Well, then she goes tells her buddy of interpreters, and then these guys heard what I said, so they were telling her like, Colin basically is so arrogant and everything. I was like, no, she's trying to be helpful. And then but it was all like, I think me and Linda are chill.
yeah.
Stephanie had a little better understanding. And,
First time
yeah.
the interpreters celebrated the group leaving.
That's like, Colin definitely left his mark on the way to Esperanza.
Yes.
Never
Yeah.
forget you.
Oh
the entire
man.
country, Colin.
So yeah,
He was also trying to tell the kids he was the president.
Oh.
yeah.
You're one to talk, Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he was Bruce Willis. Stephanie,
Yeah.
the interpreter, thought that Isaac was Bruce Willis.
Whether or not it's true, I will take it.
Yeah. I know. Isaac's like, I'll take the. Well, so did you ask like what? Because Bruce Willis.
She meant the young Bruce Willis.
Yeah, but he's bald in every movie, isn't he?
When he had
No,
hair.
Like he had a
like
shape.
young,
Yeah, this mean boys.
non-bald Bruce Willis.
I'm trying to picture that, and I can't even picture it.
It did. It has like the same hairstyle as
So
Isaac, just
it's
more receded.
It is okay. It's more receded. Okay, I'll have to look that up. Oh man. Oh, Aiden. Okay, yeah, I remember him with hair. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I also had my contacts in, so it was,
Yeah, no glasses. Maybe, you know.
His hair's darker though.
Yeah.
Where's that?
And he's like
Isaac, you were showing me a picture
40 in
earlier
those
of that.
pictures. And Isaac's like 18. So, you know. Anyways, so what I want to end on, the last question that I'd love to hear you guys speak of is Colin kind of already talked about this, which is
Sorry, that was my arrogance coming out.
let's see, mic number 3, mute. No.
Soy more importante.
Oh, man. But,
Thank you.
I would love for you to speak to maybe a misperception you had about missions that really got changed, and your experience was like, man, this was not what I was expecting, and this was totally different than what I thought. And it might not have been something big. It might have been like, oh, I never expected to be throwing toilet paper in a garbage can. But hopefully it's a little more serious than that. No. Aiden, you look like you're ready.
Yeah, I can go. I know my mom has gone to Papua New Guinea, and she's talked to me about the trip, and she's like, oh yeah, like basically everyone over there that she went to like the new tribe, whatever.
New tribe missions
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
And it was like pretty much, it was just a huge culture shock for her, and like how poor everybody is, how much they struggle over there. And I don't want to say that I didn't like see that there. There was a lot of that there.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was like there wasn't as much as I thought there would be, I guess. Mm-hmm. Not like, I know we saw them like in Nueva Esperanza, all the kids, so they were all like happy, and we don't see like their home experiences, but like they're all, like everybody has said, how happy and how joyful these kids are.
So do you think the misperception actually, and I don't want to say a blanket statement about people in the United States, but in your experience, do you equate happiness with money, or you observe that in a lot of people around you, and then the shock was you went down there and didn't realize that you could have that much joy in the midst of poverty?
Yeah, it's kind of the second thing you said, and it's like you don't need all the women, all the that's another thing that Colin said.
On the list.
It's on the list.
So many.
But like all the possessions that
Yes.
Americans have to
Yeah.
be happy, you could have very little and still be very joyful, very happy, and live
Yeah.
your life like to the fullest.
Yeah, and when your joy is from the Lord, then it like we were saying, it is coming from God as the source, not in possessions or whatever else or your circumstances.
Yeah.
No, that's good. What about a misperception, you guys?
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I know I've heard this before, but a misperception for me was probably just like a lot of time I was thinking that like seeing Boots Merritt and Terry Holy and stuff going down, and everywhere when they went on missions trip, they were going and they're building entire buildings for the ministry that they're going down to. And it's like they're going down there to just serve the ministry. Like that's all they're going down there for. Is to build stuff and to just make an impact there, and not so much that they're going for themselves and a growth in their own faith and their own walk. And that's something that I really saw down there. And it's like because they had to change their schedule for us when we got down there. And it's not, we weren't just joining another day of their school. They were making activities for us to do.
Yeah.
And like Carlos said it really well when he was sharing his testimony and stuff. He wants us to come down here, and yes, he wants us to serve and work hard in the ministry every day, play with the kids. He wants them to have fun and us to have fun. But he wants us to also see what they need down here. And for us to bring that home with us and to share with everybody else. Not just what we did while we were down there.
Yeah.
But what the people that are down there can do with what we like, with our donations and everything. Not just, with our prayers. Not just what we bring down with us.
Yeah. And I think that it helps us realize, like, we're not the great American hope going down to save them, and so often we have that misperception of, we're going down to serve, but really it's there's so much more, and it's over time, not like we're going to go down this 8 days and solve things, but to partner with them over time, to be in prayer. Maybe God's calling you to donate, whatever it might be, to go back down. Yeah. What about, was there something for you that stood out as like, man, this is not what I expected?
Yeah, I'd say, honestly, the facilities that they have there are a lot better than I was expecting. Like, they've spent so much time building, like, the team house and just Nueva Esperanza.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I'd say it's probably nicer than my own house, but
Yes.
But anyway,
minus the scorpion. I mean, like,
and the giant beetles that were like 3 inches long.
But I don't know, like, I wasn't really sure what to expect going down, but just seeing how they use the facilities that they do have, and also what really was cool to see was Carlos's vision for the ministry. And I know they've been funding the team house, but it was really cool. Like, I've heard about it in church, and it's definitely a lot different hearing about it and seeing it in person. Like, they took us down and showed us the area where they're going to have the building. It's like, oh, this is a property we're trying to get so we can build this giant building that'll help all of the kids in Honduras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I guess in
the career center that they're trying
to
build. Because if they buy some buildings on one side of the property, then they would have to build like the 7-story career thing. But if they buy it on the other side of the property, they could build it more towards the other way and make it only 4 stories. Okay. And not have to build up as much and spend
I didn't
more
realize. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a possibility, because I know that the original plan when they were here that we saw was the 7 or 9 stories or whatever it was. I didn't realize that there was a possibility of a larger plot that would be only 4 stories.
It's with the land that they already have, like the land they've already purchased. That's what they would need, the 7 stories to get all the stuff that they wanted in there.
But if they purchase
there's like a couple houses and stuff that are down at the end of the lot.
Gotcha.
If they're able to purchase those, and there's a couple like little ones off to the side. If they got all those, then they can build it like from one road to the next.
Gotcha. Okay.
And plus,
almost like a city block. They could take
pretty much.
Yeah, they could take the whole area.
Yeah,
and go from there.
Like good strip of land.
Yeah.
It was just kind of cool to see. Like, I didn't know what to expect with like the size of the ministry, but they like see hundreds of kids every day.
Yeah.
And just like having all those kids come through and just seeing Carlos's visions for the future of the ministry and just continually expanding and just being able to reach more of the community. And it kind of went along with his testimony and how he was just telling us how he felt how God was acting in his life, even though when he didn't realize it until after the fact. Just seeing how being able to be in a community like that kind of, it just changed his life and made him want to continue to do that for other kids.
Yeah, and it's a tremendous story, and what God has done through them, and what God has in store for them 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever that is, just to see where God has taken this ministry is tremendous. And it's been a neat thing to be part of and to partner with. And obviously I fully expect that partnership to go nowhere. I was gonna say, it's not only the long term with Carlos and Barbara, but now with Morgan Ring there for an indefinite amount of time.
It's just getting stronger, man.
Yeah, so it's just
We're gonna send
there's
Isaac
that
next time.
Yeah.
And then there's the intern.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
internship.
I was gonna say it's and that'll be a neat opportunity to see who God calls from a number of different churches, but the potential of possibly from here as well, I think will be really neat. Well, thank you guys very much for joining. It is after 10 o'clock at night, and so they were gracious enough to join me after Journey, and so it made for a little bit of a later night. I think it was, you guys owed me, since I had no problem coming and picking you up at the airport at midnight.
Oh, what?
And so,
we didn't know.
Half of it was
Yeah.
my father.
Driven back. I was just falling asleep at the
I
wheel.
kept you awake.
yes,
on
you
the
did.
ride.
You helped. We had a great conversation,
Like the
and
full hour and a
Pam,
half.
yeah, I was going to say Pam and Greg contributed to the conversation a little bit, but we were talking the whole way back.
Oh yeah.
It was great. I brought snacks along to keep me awake in case everyone got in the van and just crashed, and I didn't need to touch them. It was,
you got
it was
the
good.
ADHD, dude.
Yeah.
Wait, there were snacks in the back of your van?
Wow.
I had snacks next to be in the front of my van.
Oh man.
Colin, I was eating
Yeah.
the whole way home. You
Yeah.
might not have noticed. I had a bag of trail mix in my lap. I was just every couple sentences, I'd pop a handful
I
of trail mix.
didn't even notice. I was just
I
watching.
felt bad because on the way back, so Suzanne's Adam.
Adam was really sick.
He felt really sick. But you know what I had in the back of my bag for snacks? Beef jerky.
That jerky was
Peppered.
pretty good.
Peppered.
That was good jerky.
And apparently, someone's don't like the smell of beef jerky.
Well, yeah, it can be offensive at times, especially if you're nauseous and vomiting.
Well,
You know,
apparently down the airplane, I just opened it up and started eating on the plane, and everyone's like sniffing it. I'm like,
the
don't this
smell
smell
was
good?
it was
and they're like,
lingering.
nope. I'm like, I am such out of date with today's world,
It was a pleasant aroma for that airplane ride.
I like jerky, man.
You just
Why?
needed to bring a burrito home with you like I did.
I don't know how they let you take
I
that
was
through.
literally-
the TSA let you keep that.
I was literally saying thank you everyone for joining us. It just kind of derailed back
onto
off.
the food.
Hey,
Yeah,
don't bring
yeah.
jerky on the plane, and don't
Yes.
bring
But
it
you
when
can
your
bring a
friend's sick.
burrito.
But
Yeah,
you can
the
bring the
TSA let you
burrito
bring
home.
burritos.
Yeah. But I guess Steve packed 3, right?
He gave them to us.
Me,
Yeah.
Colin, and Steve
So,
just chow down.
Burritos
I was
with
gonna say,
eggs,
oh,
sour
man.
cream, and refried beans, baby. That
Wait,
plain
sour cream? It just sat in the warmth?
Oh yeah, it,
For,
it's good.
hours?
The way they do it, they cook the tortilla, then they put the toppings on, then they fold it.
Yeah,
and,
like
including the sour cream, and then they cook it again, or sometimes they'll throw it in the oven.
Mal.
Okay.
And the heated up sour cream tastes amazing.
So the heated up sour cream might not spoil as quickly
I don't know.
Yeah.
since it's cooked.
Mal, there are
Yeah.
so many ways. The one thing I took away from Hunters is you can eat a burrito so many different ways.
We ate 8 different types.
Different
of burritos.
types, and they're not all the same. Burritos,
but
fajitas, boom.
they all have refried beans though.
Oh,
Almost.
refried beans is a must.
Yes.
They are delicious.
Okay. So
Now
And
everybody's
nutritious.
hungry.
Thank
There's
you. Yeah.
tortillas and
Yeah.
refried beans.
Oh man. Before we get too far off track and go back to the plungers, thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining. And it's I know I've had some conversation with Steve, and my prayer anytime someone comes back from a short-term mission trip is that the change that God did in the individuals' lives can stick. And so I know that he and I have talked a little bit about some of the change that God has done in his life and what that looks like moving forward. But truly, the fun stories and all that stuff's great, but the heart change and the growth in your faith with Christ and the sanctification process is by far the most important thing. So thank you guys for sharing. a little bit of that and the fun. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the Federated Squared Circle Wrestling with God's Word. Join us next week as we dive back in and wrap up our series on the Gospel of John. But we also want to encourage you to ask the question, what is it that God is calling you to do in global missions? Whether it's to continually pray, to send people with financial donations, or if it is to possibly go, or all three. But I encourage you that the call of global missions is for all believers, and continue to seek God and what your call for that is. We'll see you next week.